Hello and welcome to another pregame show. Matt O'Leary alongside Connor Long of Jets X Factor. Connor, how's it going, my man?
Matt, doing well here on this Sunday following a tough 32-19 loss to open the season, hoping the Jets could come back with a bounce-back victory today.
Absolutely hoping to get in the win column for the first time this year. I am live from the beach gallery doing a watch party down on the shore. It should be a really nice time. So if anyone's interested, you could check it out on the website or on my socials. I've been posting about it all week. I'll be live for the pregame. I'll be hanging out during the game and then after doing a postgame stream from here as well. So excited to cover this one, but I guess kind of just wanted to start with, your expectations or what you're looking for this week in comparison to a week ago.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm going to still have the same X factor. It's the pass rush for me, really. You look at Will Levis. He struggled under pressure last week. He was the second most pressured quarterback, and he only went 19 for 32, a touchdown, 19 for 32, 127 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. If the Jets are able to pressure Levis, he's young. He's only in his second year. He is going to struggle, and I think that's the main X factor for the Jets today.
Yeah, they need that pass rush to get home, which unfortunately did not happen a week ago. Now, granted, they were also getting gashed in the run game, and that was a big factor of it too. We can't ignore that. But, for me, I think you nailed it. I think they got to stack the box against Will Levis, dare him to throw, because when he does, that's when the mistakes usually tend to come. He had 2 interceptions in this game in week 1 against Chicago. It felt like to me he really threw that game away. They were up 17-0 in a really good spot. And that pick 6 was one of the worst decisions I've seen a quarterback make. So if you're able to, again, stack the box, dare him to throw, get some pressure this week against an offensive line that's not nearly as good as San Francisco's, that's going to be a big key.
Absolutely. Tony Pollard, I think, is another one. If the Jets want to have the run defense needs to bounce back. They need to stop Tony Pollard. He only had 16 carries for 82 yards and a touchdown, but I thought he looked really solid coming off that injury. So that's another thing the Jets defense needs to look for.
Yeah, and you said it, but I thought he looked good in the debut, or averaged over 5 yards a carry. They have another running back, Tajay Spears, as well, who I think they're going to want to get involved. If from the Titans' perspective, I think their goal is going to be to just run as much as humanly possible. And then from there, play good defense. And, they do have a good defense. We saw what they did against Chicago a week ago, but Jets just need to bounce back in a big way.
Absolutely, I completely agree. And, I know I said it off air to you, Matt, but if the Jets lose this game, this is when the fan base starts to call for Salah's head. This is an easier matchup. Somehow the Jets are only favored by 3.5 points, according to DraftKings Sportsbook, but I think this should be an easier game for the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, they're favorites on the road. That usually doesn't happen a lot for them, but with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback and the high expectations and the opponent too, you got to take all those things into account.
Exactly.
This is one the Jets need to win and win pretty decisively. If it's a struggle fest, 17-14, yeah, it'd be nice to get a win, but I don't know if that's going to really ease the tension of Jet fans going into week 3 if they just squeak out of Tennessee with a win.
Absolutely. These next few games are key for the Jets in their schedule because they have obviously the Titans this week, then the Patriots, Broncos, Vikings, Bills, and then it kind of picks back up. You have those games. I think this next stretch is key on the Jets schedule. This is the easier stretch before it picks back up when you have these Dolphins-Bills matchups at the later end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the time to stack some wins, get yourself in a good spot heading into that Bills game. You don't want to look too far ahead, but this is an opportunity for them, as mentioned, to get back on track. They need it. Teams that start 0-2, it's very challenging to make the playoffs. It's not impossible, but you're kind of digging yourself a big hole. And after Buffalo's start, they're 2-0, and the Jets' goal is to, compete in this division. They can't do that if they put themselves in a 2-game hole early on in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And Aaron Rodgers has never started 0-2 in his career, so can't be this year, cannot be this year. This is where the Jets come out and get a huge win.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement with you there. I think the Jets bounce back and get the W today, but I'm curious to see what some of our call-ins have to say on this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we take our first call?
Yeah, let's go to our resident first caller here.
Doug in his room. Doug, how you doing?
Good. Just real quick to explain kind of how spreads kind of work. I know Matt kind of went on it. Typically, if you're the home team,
you get 3 points.
3 points. So yeah. So that means if it was at MetLife, the Jets would be 6.5 point favorites essentially.
Yeah, I should have taken that into consideration. I know that with the odds, but if the Jets won, if the Jets won week 1, it would have been a lot higher for sure.
I still don't know if it would because I used to work for DraftKings. They don't like to make road dogs like that big unless it's like a clear advantage. So like I think if the Jets won max, it would have been like 5 maybe. I think it would have probably stayed around 4.5, which was the original spread. So I think it would have stayed at like 4.5. But I feel good about today. I wasn't overreacting like all these idiots this past week. I was just taking it easy. I'm in a mellow week. Mellow Matt, I'm very jealous you're down by the shore, by the way. Very, very.
Yeah, it's beautiful here. I'm going to tweet out some pictures during the game, but it's we're on the top floor overlooking the beach. Can't ask for much better on a beautiful day like today.
I'd much rather be down the shore right now. Boston, Massachusetts. But that's besides the point. Yeah, no, I feel good. I think we're gonna be able to get pressure. Our O line. I know we didn't do great in the run game, but pass protection was great last week, so that's another positive. Well, the Titans are not as good as the 49ers. The 49ers are just a well-oiled machine, tough first matchup. A lot of us picked us to lose that game anyway, so I don't know why people are like all doom and gloom. I said it all last week, this past week. I would take this 0-1 over last year's 1-0 1,000 times. Like, not even close. Like, you couldn't pay me to take last year over this. It's just not even close.
Absolutely.
And I think it's going to be probably like close to 50-50 with fans there based on everything that we're reading and seeing. Like, a lot of Jets fans go down to Nashville, and Tennessee probably doesn't feel high on the team. I know it's the home opener, but they don't probably feel high on the team. So win today, get all this momentum going to Thursday. And Thursday is going to be a madhouse like it was for the home opener last year in 9/11. And Thursday's going to be a madhouse. Oh, we just murder and decapitate the Patriots in front of a live audience, and it's going to be amazing, and everyone's going to love it. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people are going to.
Doug, what's the X factor for today's game?
I think it's getting the run game going. Not that Rodgers looked bad. I thought Rodgers was obviously one of the best things tonight, but you saw they really struggled to run the ball. And you saw early in the game they were trying to just ease Rodgers into it, which I get. Absolutely. But like as the game got on, he got more and more comfortable. So if they I think if they're able to run the ball effectively and just another key thing is having more than 21 minutes of the ball is another big
yeah.
Because I think if they get like 25 plus minutes, you don't need to dominate, but if you did like that 25 to 28 range, you can get a more balanced offense and you can get more guys involved. I know people were upset about Braylon Allen not getting used as much, but I think it was just more based on how the game was playing out, and there wasn't many opportunities to use them. And just the few that there were, they didn't. But so maybe on the 2-point conversion, they should have used them, and a couple of 4th and shorts and stuff like that. But I didn't really think that there was many opportunities to use them because they just didn't really get any good offensive flow of the game. So today, you get Brees going, and then you can get Braylon Allen going, and then they said Mike Williams will be more involved in the game. So I just think it'll be more conductive flow. I know the Titans defense looked good last week, but Caleb Williams is a rookie quarterback. Now they're going against Aaron Rodgers, different levels of it. So I feel good. If I were to guess, I say we win 28-17.
That's pretty close to what I said. I said 27-17 on my preview show this week.
This is you can't you saw what Will Levis did in the second half. He was putrid, and the Jets have the best. The run defense was awful last week, but the pass defense was still great last week. They didn't let up a lot, but that's only because the 49ers didn't have to. But even still, I thought the pass defense was very good. Pass rush just needs to get there, and you saw how much the Bears defense was able to just destroy. Get to Will Levis, and I think we have a better defensive line than the Bears, even without Hassan Reddick. So I feel good about today. And now if we lose, then yes, then I'll start getting negative. But I don't.
I wasn't as optimistic as you guys. I put out my first newsletter. I'm starting a daily newsletter now. Comes out every morning at 7 a.m. I said the Jets are going to win 21-14. It's I just because if the Jets won week 1, I understand the 49ers are a very talented team and they're a lot different than the Tennessee Titans are. It's just if they won, I have a completely different view. However, I still have them coming out with a win, and they're winning by a touchdown.
But let's be honest. Coming into the year, I think if you asked all the Jets fans where one of the losses is going to come out of the season, I think majority said it was.
Oh, absolutely.
It just the way it happened was a little demoralizing. But everyone expected the loss, and again, it's an out-of-conference loss to the team, either the best team or the second best team in the NFL right now. They looked the best coming into week this year. I think if you played a different opponent, it would have came. And you're also going on the road. It's a tough first game, but everyone wants to overreact because it's week 1. It's the first action we're seeing in forever. Just if you want to overreact, people are like, "Oh my God, the Jets are over. Season's over." Not like there's 16 other games or 16 other games to play left in the season. After you lose one game, season's over. It's done. That was the case last year, not this year.
Well, yeah, you mentioned that last year the Jets got the win. It was a walk-off punt return touchdown from Xavier Gibson. But at the time, Jet fans knew the season was over because Aaron Rodgers has torn his Achilles. Rather, hey, we came out of week 1. We did lose the game. However, there were no massive injuries, and the offense showed some promising play.
Yeah. People just like to overreact. Tell me why we can't go on a 4 or 5 game win streak right now with the opponents coming.
We should. We definitely should.
Yeah, they almost need to in a way because it gets the schedule does get tougher in the second half, and if they're a good team, they got to take care of business as well. But it's nice, or it would be nice, to give yourself a little bit of a cushion.
It certainly does. But the schedule you thought was tough is now not looking as tough because who the hell knows going on with Tua? I think he should retire personally,
Me too.
So now they're about
absolutely.
Skylar Thompson or whoever they bring in. So the Dolphins are not really much the threat we thought they were coming into the season. The Bills looked good, but I think the Bills just own the Dolphins, so I'm not thinking so much into that. So the Dolphins or Patriots you can realistically expect to sweep the Dolphins and Patriots. I don't think that's crazy to expect at this point. So I just think if they go on a nice win streak here, and then I would like to be 4-1 going into the Buffalo game. I don't think that's a crazy ask.
No.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, because you have this game, you have the Patriots game, you have the Broncos game, then you have the Vikings game.
Yeah.
The Jets. Here's the thing: the Jets. My biggest thing is they need to feel comfortable. They need to have a comfortable record when they play the Texans on Thursday Night Football on Halloween. If the Jets are under 500 when that game is being played, Jet fans should be concerned.
I think I would love to be 4-1 going into that Bills game, but I think if you're 3-2 and the loss comes to the Vikings, it's not the end of the world. Win the 3. You know what I mean? Like lose that. Like if you win the AFC games, just win the 3 AFC opponents that you should beat. And I still think we beat the Vikings. But I'm saying if that's the game you lose in this stretch, it's not the end of the world.
No, it's not. I sneaky think that could be a trap game. I don't want to go too far ahead. We got the Tennessee game to focus on, but those London games are always so strange, but they're the better team in that one. They should win, but it wouldn't shock me if something weird happened and they lose on like a last-second field goal or something.
Yeah, I'll let you guys get to other callers. Like I said, 28-17. I feel good about today. It should be exciting. Jets pretty much going to be a secondary Jets home game with all the fans that seem flying in. Matt, enjoy the show. Connor, let's hopefully enjoy a Jets win.
Well, Doug, we do appreciate the call, and I thought he made a lot of great points there, Matt. What are your thoughts on the next stretch of games for the Jets coming up?
Yeah, this is in a really important stretch where the Jets need to stack some W's, and it starts today. Again, I don't want to look too far ahead. We can talk about their next 4, and they should win their next 4, but that starts today. We can't be talking about Minnesota and Denver and New England before you get through Tennessee. That's one that you absolutely have to win today. They're the better team on the road. They're going up against a quarterback making his 11th career start, who's turnover prone, right? Like exactly. Will Levis he's in his second year, but he's only started 10 games. He's got I think it's 6 interceptions and 8 fumbles in those 10 games.
He's inconsistent.
Yeah. He's flashed. He's had some nice moments also. I don't want to completely discredit him, but at the same time, the calling card of this defense should be getting pressure and making a young quarterback like this make mistakes.
Before we get into some memberships here, Matt, this is a good question. Who would you rather have as your starting quarterback right now, Will Levis or Tyrod Taylor?
I think I'd probably feel more comfortable with Tyrod Taylor. Now, Will Levis definitely has more upside, but he can lose you a game. Tyrod, I'm not sure can lose you a game. He's not he doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. Now, he's also not going to, light it up and throw 30 touchdowns, but he's kind of I just feel like a steady Eddie, perfect kind of backup or bridge quarterback. I put Jacoby Brissett in that same kind of tier with him. I like those safer style quarterbacks for, if I'm trying to win games right now. Long term, if I was Tennessee, I'd rather have Levis because you don't know. He's only made 10 starts.
Yes.
And worst case scenario, if it doesn't work out, you're probably getting a better draft pick anyway. But I think it depends on circumstance. But I think right now Tyrod's the better quarterback.
Absolutely. Let's get into some memberships. I gifted 5 memberships to show my support for everyone on the channel. We do appreciate all the support. Those 5 memberships went to Stack, Hader Ali, Mike Rubino, Jaden D'Angelo, and Wild Wave. And then Mike followed that up with a gifted membership. Let's see, that went to Chef Kevin. So we do greatly appreciate all the support. Make sure everyone is subscribed to both of our channels. Make sure you hit that like button. Matt, of course, is at Matt O'Leary NY, mine NY Flight Jets Talk. Matt, we did speak about the pass rush and how that's going to be an X factor. What else do you think is something to keep an eye on?
Yeah, I mean, from the offensive side, I think this is the game that Breece Hall looks more like Breece Hall. Last week, I know he got in the end zone, but it was a little disappointing to see him fumble, and he had the drop as well. He just didn't look like his normal self. I think the Jets offense is at their best when Breece Hall is going and looking like the guy that he did as a rookie and down the stretch last year. So I think he has a big game, over 100 all-purpose yards in this one. Probably close to 100 rushing yards alone, but I think he'll be a major factor today.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting the run game going is definitely interesting on both sides of the football. I know I mentioned Tony Pollard there, but Tajay Spears, also someone, he's in his second year. He showed a few flashes last season when he kind of stepped into a bigger role, and also during week 1 of this season. What do you think that 1-2 punch is going to look like compared to Breece and Braylon Allen?
Yeah, I think they're going to use – I mean, Tajay didn't really get a ton of carries, but I would think today is the day where he gets more. We talked about it earlier on, how we don't really trust Will Levis throwing. So what I think that means is they're going to run the ball and run the ball a lot. They saw what happened in week 1 and all the success that the 49ers had. So that's going to be their game plan. I think Pollard will be the main guy, but I think we see Spears a lot more than what he showed in week 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree. I'm going to move over, staying with the Titans offense, I'm going to move over to the receiving core. One of the best trios in all of football when healthy, and Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, DeAndre Hopkins. I'm going to start with D-Hop. He dealt with an injury during training camp. We didn't see much out of him during week 1, just 1 catch for 8 yards. What do you think this trio is going to look like here in this week 2 matchup? Will they be back to full strength or will they not?
I'm not sold that they will be yet, honestly. I think DeAndre Hopkins didn't look right in week 1, and who knows, maybe with another week into it, he looks a little bit more like himself, but I didn't really think that he looked like himself. I can't read this. What is this?
DJ Reed is not expected to play. Wow. Yeah, that's not great for the Jets.
No, so I would think that Brandon Eccles is going to have a much bigger role. Quantez Stiggers is a name to watch as well. JBC, another one, but yeah, that's a big loss, and that'll play a factor in the Titans passing attack.
Matt, how does this affect the Jets game plan? I know we were just speaking about the Titans wide receiver core. How does this affect the Jets' ability to stop those receivers?
Yeah, I mean, last year against the Philadelphia Eagles, we saw the Jets be down DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner, and they played a really good game against Philadelphia. Now, it's very hard to replicate that. Granted, they're not going up against as good of a quarterback this week as they were a year ago, from Jalen Hurts to Will Levis, but it is going to make a difference. Eccles has started in this league before. I thought he looked good in limited role last year, and they have some guys who can play. So it's going to be a big test, and I do think there is a drop-off from DJ Reed to someone like an Eccles, but still remains the same. Got to get after the quarterback, got to cause pressure and force him into making a mistake.
Yeah. I completely agree. I'm going to move over to someone the Jets elevated ahead of today's contest. That's defensive tackle Jalen Holmes. Here's the thing. I thought Holmes had a strong individual performance in week 1. I thought he was one of the main contributing factors to stop the run. The Jets struggled in stopping the run. What do you think his role is going to look like today? And after today, if he has a strong performance, could you see something where the Jets give him a permanent spot on the team's roster?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's possible. I thought he looked pretty good in week 1. Not that, that side of the ball really exploded or did a whole lot, but he's someone who, is probably a little bit further down on the pecking chart. But if he plays well, you got to give these guys the opportunity. And, I thought he earned it, and I'm glad that he was elevated again. I thought he was deserving of that. And if he just continues to stack good performances, I think he's going to earn himself some more playing time.
Yeah, absolutely. Staying with the topic of this defensive line rotation, Solomon Thomas, he's someone we didn't really see too much out of him. What does his role look like today?
Yeah, I think it's going to be similar to what it was a week ago. I'm sure he's going to play roughly 45% of snaps. I thought he really struggled, and maybe it's not fair to just point him out because the whole defense struggled and the whole line, it felt like, didn't have a good day. But I thought he was part of the issue. He's not great against the run. He's better as a pass rusher because he's a little bit on the smaller side. So, it's going to be a big test today. It's the Titans' run game they're no slouch. They have one of the best offensive line coaches in football. Yep, in Callahan. So they're going to have their work cut out for them today. So they need to bounce back in a big way.
Overall, how do you see the Jets matching up against the Titans? The Titans, I'm going to go back to the week 1 matchup. They blew a 17-point lead where Caleb Williams just threw for just 93 yards. Bears didn't even score a touchdown, and they somehow lost. How do the Jets overall stack up against the team that struggled in week 1 like the Titans?
Yeah, so from an offensive perspective, like they have some pass rushers that I think could get home in Tennessee, and they obviously add in a new a new cornerback as well. So I think that's going to play a factor in this one. But for me, I think they just need the time of possession numbers to go up. Last week, just did not have the ball nearly enough to get anything going consistently offensively. So that's going to have to change. And then from a defensive side, I feel like broken record here, but their first thing is they're going to have to stop the run, and then from there, just with no DJ Reed, I'm going to imagine that Will Levis is going to target that side of the field significantly more and stay away from Sauce Gardner. So whether it's Eccles, JBC, or the rookie Quantez Stiggers, they're going to have to show up.
Aaron Rodgers completed a pass to just 3 different players for the first time in his career. The second lowest was for the 3 players, of course, Breece Hall, Allen Lazard, and Garrett Wilson. How does he utilize more offensive pieces, such as Tyler Conklin, possibly Malachi Corley? How does that work?
Yeah, I was going to say Tyler Conklin definitely needs to be more involved today than he was in week 1. Did not have a reception. I'm still holding my Tyler Conklin stock. I think, the quarterback and Aaron Rodgers likes to go to the tight end as a safety blanket. We saw it in training camp. I thought he looked good in camp. And he has that built-in chemistry with Allen Lazard. And I thought after that, drop on the first possession, he ended up turning it around and having a pretty good game. Got in the end zone twice, but today got to spread it around more. I would expect Tyler Conklin and even Mike Williams to be a little bit more involved as well.
Absolutely. Robert Saleh said he is going to try to get Mike Williams more involved in today's game plan. But we have a $5 super chat coming in here from Chef Kevin. Good morning, guys. Great show. What changes do you think we need to make to be more effective in the run game? Well, Chef Kevin, we really do appreciate the $5 super chat. And I meant to say it earlier with the members, since all these memberships got gifted, if you want to get access to the perks, you have to go under the community tab. There's a member-only post where you get access to Fialco's film room along with the Discord server. But Matt, what are your thoughts on how they get the run game going?
Now, from an offensive perspective or defensive perspective, how did you interpret this?
Being more effective in the run game? I think he's meaning offensive because we saw Breece Hall. He had a lot of those runs to the outside that kind of got blown up.
Yeah, I think I was disappointed with the right side of the offensive line last week from the run game. For me, I think it was Morgan Moses and Elijah Vera Tucker didn't get nearly enough push. And I think that's really something that changed. He points out defense in the comments. So what I would do on the defensive side would add another linebacker on the field. I think with the Michael Carter injury, the Jets run a lot of nickel. They have their 3 corner, the 3-headed monsters out there on the field at one time, but I think they need to play a little bit bigger. Add another linebacker, Jamie Sherwood out there, or another safety, and do a 3-safety look instead. That would be my first adjustment if I'm the Jets. Yeah,
absolutely. And he did correct. He said defense there. And, again, defensive tackles, Javon Kinlaw faced off against the team. He played for the 49ers last season, had a fine game. What do we see out of him today? Just this defensive tackle room as a whole. And Leonard Taylor, is he inactive for today's game?
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, we don't, at least correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we have the inactive list yet.
We do not.
So we'll get that at some point during the show. He was inactive in week 1. We'll see if he's active this week. But, I'm not sure how they're going to handle that one.
Yeah, I mean, they elevated Holmes, and they did that last game, and he was inactive. So I think there is a fine chance that he will be inactive again for today's matchup. But Matt, another week Another game without Hassan Reddick. Who is the X factor in the pass rush? I know that's one of the main things, but you haven't really gone into who that player is going to be. Is it going to be the undrafted free agent direction? Is it going to be Braden McGregor? Is it going to be second year player Will McDonald, or is it going to be the guy whose jersey I'm wearing, Jermaine Johnson? Who is it today, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's got to be Will McDonald. He was pretty absent in week one. Granted, the whole defensive line was. So, he was just part of that issue. This is a spot. He's not going against, someone like a Trent Williams. They have a rookie on the left side of the line in J.C. Latham making his second career start. I think this is an opportunity for him to show off that spin move. Now, J.C. Latham in the run game against Will McDonald, I say advantage J.C. Latham. But as a pass protector, I would think that Will McDonald should have the advantage. And listen, like he was a top 15 pick last year, a year ago. He looked good in some pass rush situations. So that's got to improve now in week two because he was pretty much a non-factor in week one, I thought.
Absolutely. We have another super chat here from Jacob Bradshaw. Thanks for yet again another great year of Jets coverage. Bleed Green. Matt, you're also going live for a post-game show. Normally you do a video, but this is the first live post-game show I believe you have on the season. What are your thoughts on the overall coverage?
Yeah, so really excited to be out here at the Beach Gallery. Figured that we'd go live. It's just I don't have my full setup that I do at home. So it's a lot harder to edit on just the laptop. I don't have, the whole desktop and the second monitor and all that stuff. So going to do a quick live stream after the game, just get my quick reaction, take some chats. Maybe we'll do some calls as well. But I'm hoping that it's a much more positive show than it was a week ago.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely not the start you wanted to the season. What is something, the pass rush and the run games, obviously what's something you noticed during that game against the 49ers that was a weakness that no one really talked about that the Jets need to look to improve on today?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about, Hassan Reddick's absence, and I just did not think they were able to get a consistent pass rush. Now, granted, they didn't have a ton of opportunity. I believe Brock Purdy dropped back 31 times, but he's only pressured on like 3 of those dropbacks. That's not nearly enough. So I think the Jets just have to do a better job of getting after the quarterback. And this is going to sound so simple, but they got to tackle better too. 18 missed tackles is unacceptable defensively. I think they were just tired. They were getting gashed in the run game, and they just looked by the end of it like just completely shot. So sustain drive offensively, tackle better, and get after the quarterback is my recipe.
Speaking of tackling better, Ashton Davis is someone the Jets signed to an extension who really struggled. He had a lot of missed tackles during week one. How does he bounce back? What does his role look like?
Yeah, I think, I mentioned just not too long ago having maybe some more 3 safety looks. And I think this would be that spot for him where, if the Jets are playing a little bit bigger, I think they like his speed. Now, he is a little inconsistent, I would say, in the run game. So I'm a little bit worried about that. But we have the inactive. So I guess let's hop into it.
Here we go. Max Mitchell, not really surprising. Carter Warren, another one, not surprising. Izzy Abonaconda, not surprising. Watts, not too surprising. Taylor, some fans works. I was expecting it at least because they elevated Holmes again. And then DJ Reed obviously dealing with the injury. Matt, overall thoughts on this list?
Yeah, it's, not crazy surprising. DJ Reed was someone that we were going to watch in the pregame, and clearly he wasn't good to go. But I just don't know how this went from he was limited on Wednesday and don't think it's an issue to he doesn't practice on Friday.
Exactly.
And now today he's out. Like, I just don't know how it progressed that way.
Absolutely. I know we talked about who's going to step up for Reeve, but Michael Carter II, he is active for today's game. However, he's still dealing with that lingering ankle injury. What does that mean for his role in the slot? We didn't really see too much of him during week one. I think he played a little less than 30% of the snaps. How did the Jets stop the slot today?
Yeah, I mean, Michael Carter, I'm a little bit worried about him. If he's just going to be dealing with that ankle, that's a really tough injury for someone who plays in the slot. Those slot receivers are so fast. And in order to keep up with them, I think it's going to be a challenge. He's something he's going to have to deal with throughout the season. That's at least what Robert Saleh made it seem like. So, again, we'll see how that ends up going. But I'm not going to lie to you, not a 100% Michael Carter makes a big difference. So, not only will we see Brandon Eccles, I think we see some Quantez Stiggers or JBC in the slot too.
Absolutely. Let's get into some questions in the chat. Oreo, I know the D line was bad, but how is anyone not talking about the O line? This line did not get any push up front and create any running lanes for Brees and Allen. This D line for Titans are good. Matt, what do you got there?
Yeah, I was surprised in the run game. I thought in training camp that was their strength. I will say though, was really impressed with how they looked in pass protection. Excuse me, Aaron Rodgers. I thought, had a lot of time to throw. I believe he was pressured twice, one sack, one hurry. I thought they played really well in pass pro, but from the run game, I mentioned the right side of the offensive line. Morgan Moses and Elijah Vera Tucker definitely have to be better today.
Absolutely, absolutely. I completely agree. I thought Tyron Smith. I know everyone's gonna be like, "Oh God, he's the 8-time All-Pro." I thought he had a fine game, but I saw him get beat on a couple pass protection there. What are your thoughts on the overall just shape of the line and how they're gonna gel together as the season progresses?
Yeah, I mean, eventually I think they'll be fine. There's a lot of talent on the offensive line, and to me, it was already a positive sign that they looked so good in pass pro. So, the fact that they gelled in one aspect of the game, it may take a little bit to get the run game up to where we want to see it, but I don't think this is going to be like halfway through the year thing. I'm talking like maybe by the time October's rolling around, they look like the full version that we think they will be this year.
Keenan Good wants to know, do you think this is a must-win game? Matt, take it away.
I do, which sounds really crazy. Like
Yeah.
week 2 is so early in the year, and they're going to have 15 games after this, but you can't start 0-2. It's going to put a ton of noise on Robert Saleh and this staff. The pressure is going to be cranked up to 100. They need to get back to 1-1. That would put them. Well, I was going to say second in the division, but that might not be true. If New England wins today, maybe it won't be second in the division. But if they start 0-2, that's going to put them in a really, really tough spot. I would say this is a must-win game. Again, I know that there's still 15 games after this, but an 0-2 start heading home, I don't want to see that.
You mentioned the interdivision play there. When all's said and done, where do you see the Jets stacking up against the other teams in the division?
Yeah, so going into this year, I figured the Jets would handle business and beat New England twice, and I think they'll split with Buffalo and Miami. I think we'll see how long Tua's out for, right? Like, I don't want to just change my stance off of the one game, and we really don't know yet. We know he's on IR, so he's going to miss 4 games, but from that, I think it's going to be really dependent, to me at least, from there. So worst case scenario, I'm going to say 3-3 in the division, but I'm hoping for 4-2 or better.
GTAIV man would have liked to see LT3 play today. Matt, we saw Leonard Taylor III. He had a strong preseason inactive for the second game in a row. Would you rather see a player like him out there, rather a veteran such as Jalen Holmes?
Yeah, I thought he played well enough in the preseason to earn an opportunity to play. I would have liked to see him. I don't think LT3 is going to be the difference between a win or a loss today. Honestly, I think we're, debating the really small things at this point. If we're really concerned about LT3 playing, like they got some bigger issues to fry. But would I have liked to? Sure. Is it the end of the world? I'm not quite there yet, though.
Absolutely. Speaking of strong preseason performances, Quantez Stiggers is in line for an increased role after DJ Reed has been ruled out and Michael Carter II still dealing with that lingering ankle injury. Anyone named Quantez Stiggers should have an eye patch and a parrot on his shoulder. Matt, what are your thoughts on Stiggers and how can he contribute to this team today?
I love it. Love the comment there. Stiggers, man, I was really excited about him. Going back to the draft, honestly, really unique path to the NFL. Thought he looked good in OTAs, minicamp, training camp, preseason games. So he's going to get an opportunity eventually. I honestly, with DJ Reed out, this almost feels like a little bit of a preview of maybe what we're looking to next year. I'm not convinced that DJ Reed's going to get re-signed after this year. They have a lot of new, contracts to pass around. I would like to bring Reed back, but in the NFL, you can't retain everybody. And if they're unable to retain him, maybe we'll see if someone like, as Reluctant Earthling mentions, Quantez Stiggers, if he's going to be able to take over that role.
Absolutely. The Jets did sign Michael Carter II right before the season started to an extension. That said, do you think that ship has sailed in terms of DJ Reed coming back?
I guess never say never, but I would say it's a slim chance in my eyes, honestly. I would say it's like 25% chance that he's back. I just think, again, they're going to have to give Sauce Gardner an extension, maybe Garrett Wilson an extension after this year. This is the part where you have to, get those younger, cheaper options in there. I think on the open market, I wouldn't be surprised if DJ Reed gets close to like $18 million. I think someone will pay him as a number one a number one cornerback. On the Jets, he's a number 2, but I think someone will pay him to be a number 1 because he's, in my opinion, a top 15 corner in the league.
I'm going to move back over to the offensive side of the football. I know we spoke about Allen Lazard, Garrett Wilson, 2 of the only 3 players Aaron Rodgers completed a pass to. What is your statistical prediction for Lazard today? We saw him have that drop to start the game. He had a very rough season last year. However, he picked it back up, and he had 2 touchdowns. What is your prediction for Lazard's performance?
Honestly, would not be surprised if he gets in the end zone again, just because Rodgers is kind of focused in on him. Imagine that 3 touchdowns in the first 2 games.
Yep.
I think everyone's going to be on their fantasy wires claiming him if they didn't already. So yeah, I would not be shocked. I don't think he goes for 86 yards or whatever it was in week 1, maybe in the 40 to 50 yard range, 3 to 5 catches, something like that.
Absolutely. I think Lazard, here's the thing. I think his production throughout the whole season relies on the health of Aaron Rodgers. We've shown he's not quarterback proof. He couldn't play with it's hard to play with quarterbacks like Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Trevor Siemian. However, someone who was able to, have 2 1,000-yard seasons with those quarterbacks is Garrett Wilson. What does his role look like today? How many times does Aaron Rodgers go his way?
Yeah, I think what was the number 11 targets from a week ago?
Yes.
I would not be surprised if it's that high or higher. I think in the second half, Garrett Wilson was very quiet. Again, they didn't have the ball, so like I'm not going to go nuts and kill him over it. But I think he goes over 100 yards today. I think they really focus in on him. I think I'm going to say like 9 catches, 105 yards, and a touchdown today.
I'm gonna go over to the quarterback, the signal caller, Aaron Rodgers. Like I said, he only threw 3 players' way last game. What do you expect out of Rodgers? We saw him throw a touchdown, deep touchdown at that to Allen Lazard. How many touchdowns and what does his final line look like?
Yeah, so I think he'll throw more today than he did last week. Only 21 attempts. That was really low. But yards per attempt, he threw 8 yards per attempt, which is nice. I know the yardage total wasn't crazy high, but again, if you're only throwing the ball 21 times, I'm not going to, expect you to go for 250 yards. I don't think he'll go nuts today, but maybe like 245 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's kind of where I think he'll end up.
I really do like it. I know you said you expect more pieces to get involved in the Jets offense. Who are those pieces? Tyler Conklin, Xavier Gibson, possibly Malachi Corley. Who are those players?
Yeah, I big Tyler Conklin guy. I want to see him get much more involved. Corley only played 1 snap last week. Now, I was trying to temper some Jet fans' expectations because we've seen this from Robert Saleh and the staff. They bring these guys on very, very slowly. That's one of my bigger criticisms with Robert Saleh. I think they're a little bit too slow to, give some opportunities to their younger players. And I'm not saying he's got to have like 10 targets a game, but he's a dynamic player with the ball in his hands. I would give him like an end around and maybe like 2 screen passes. Like try to get him the ball 3 to 5 times, somewhere in that range. And get after it from there because he can make things happen with the ball in his hands.
Jeremy Ruckert, Long Island native. There's been excuses. Okay, he hasn't been worked into the game plan enough. This year, there are no excuses. He is Aaron Rodgers at the helm. This is the year where he needs to produce. What does this game look like for a player like Ruckert?
Yeah, I don't know how much he's involved in the passing attack, but I do think they use him a lot more in the run game. I was surprised. So shout out to Dylan from Jet Nation. If you don't follow his work,
Dylan Terman, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He does a really good job on Twitter and on video too, by the way. But every week after these games, he charts what the Jets personnel usage was. And they were in 11 personnel, so 3 wide receivers, upwards of 70% of the time. I thought that was way too high. I would expect to see much more 2 tight end sets. So I think he's going to be utilized as a blocker a lot today. I don't know if he's going to have a ton of receiving play.
Season-wide, I know you just mentioned for today. What does this season look like for a day 3 pick such as Jeremy Ruckert?
Yeah, I think as the year goes on, maybe he'll get some more reps. I don't know, maybe like 150, 200 receiving yards, a touchdown or 2. I'm a very big Tyler Conklin believer this year. I think he's going to fit in well with Rodgers, but that's another guy who's on an expiring deal. So you might want to see if Ruckert is someone who can take over for Tyler Conklin if he's someone you don't extend. I'm open to extending Tyler Conklin, but again, I think you got to see what you have a little bit in the young player.
Absolutely. We have another 5 memberships here. Those 5 memberships went to Nate Bonfant, Addison, Sony Crockett, Terrence Hill, and Julius Harris. If you'd like to get access to all the perks, go and click under the membership tab on my YouTube channel. Really do appreciate that. Let's see, we got a few super chats to get to. Oreo, does Salah get fired if we lose these next 2? Matt, you could go first, but I have an interesting stance here.
So Woody Johnson almost never fires anyone in season. So
yes.
I feel like a part of me would be surprised. Another part of me wouldn't, because I think he understands the pressure that he's under and this team is under this year to win. And if they start 0-3, like pulling the plug and trying to get this thing back on track might be a worthwhile play. And it starts today. I mean, we already heard calls for Salah's job after the loss in week 1. Right. So I think it's only going to get amplified that much more if they drop this one. But if they drop the next 2 and are sitting at 0-3, they might have to hit the button. What do you think?
So Connor Hughes, I don't know if you saw this, Matt, but Connor Hughes, he does his once in a while mailbag questions he takes from Twitter and puts out an article for SNY. And someone asked that, what would it need to take for Salah if they start off 1-2, lose to the Titans and the Patriots? He basically said it wouldn't be ideal. However, he said it would something, quote, wild or dramatic would need to happen for Salah to get fired midway through the season. I personally don't see it, but I think for me, I think it's more than just making the playoffs. If Salah wants to be employed for next year, what do you think that looks like? Is it winning a playoff game? Is it taking the team to the AFC Championship? Is it even a Super Bowl appearance, quite frankly?
I think they need to win at least a playoff game. For me, like, also eye test matters a lot to me too. Like, it's so hard to put like a definitive line in the sand right now. But if they're like 9-8, the 7 seed, and then lose to Kansas City in the first round, like, to me, that's not enough. Like, you don't bring in Aaron Rodgers and do this whole experiment for a 9-win season and to get bounced right away. If they go, 11-6, win a home playoff game in the wild card round, and then bow out in round 2, that's probably enough for everyone to come back, I would think, anyway.
Absolutely. We got Johnny Danks. Yo, Matt, great seeing you at Jake's Long Island meetup a few months ago. Heading to T-Square Social for the game. JTS Jets.
Love that. Yeah, it was a great time at Jake's event. I'm big Long Island guy. It was Connor too, Richie, Jake, all Long Island roots there. It was really fun. Hopefully, going to be able to do some more things on the island here and enjoy T-Squared. It looked like a blast in week 1, so I'm sure it's going to be a good time this week too.
Absolutely, Matt. I still have to meet you. The only 2 people I've met in the Jets community were training camp. Chef Kevin and Nate were the only 2 people I've met. So I'm sure we'll get something done. I still need to meet a lot of the content creators in person, but keeping it going. Bang Mateo, Ruckert is a bust, man. I called it a year ago. Matt, I know just from your Twitter posts, you're a big fan of Jeremy Ruckert. What do you got here?
Yeah, look, I get it. He's not for everyone. He hasn't shown a ton through the first 2 years. I will say he was buried on the depth chart behind CJ Uzama and Tyler Conklin the last couple. I think tight ends usually take a little bit of time as well. So this is really the big year for him. I wouldn't call him a bust because I still think even though he hasn't been as versatile in the pass game yet, I think he's a plus blocker. So if you're finding a tight end in the mid rounds who is a good tight end 2 and a good blocker, that's still a win, man. Like, even if he doesn't reach that full potential of being a tight end 1, but I have faith. I got faith.
Yep, absolutely. Harlan Abraham, if head coach Salah gets fired during the season, who becomes the next head coach? Matt, I'd have to assume if they fire midway through the year, which is very unlikely, you heard it from insider Connor Hughes, I think they'd probably give the role to possibly Ulbrich. Yeah,
I would think either 2 options. Ulbrich was my first thought, but then on Talking Jets this week, we were talking about it. What about oh my God, Ron Middleton? He coached that one game.
Tight end coach, yeah.
Yeah, well, he coached the one game when Salah had COVID, his first year, and then he was one of the coaches in the Senior Bowl. Ulbrich was too. Ulbrich ran it last year.
Head coach, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that it would be one of those 2 guys, and I don't really have I don't obviously have a strong feel one way or the other who it would be, but I do think one of those 2.
Absolutely. I completely agree there. Here's the thing. If the Jets get to the point where they have to fire a coach midway through the season, you already know we're in a bad position. So if that ever happens, personally, I don't care who it is because if that happens, the Jets are probably they're probably like 3 games under 500 entering week 16 or week 17. So you definitely don't want to see that. But if it were to happen, I think it will be Ulbrich. Let's see. We got Andre. Hey, Matt, bro, I watch your show every day from Detroit.
Nice.
What do you think the score will be? And do you believe Aaron will be counted on more or Brees gone have a breakout game? Brees or Garrett today?
Thank you so much for supporting all the way out from Detroit. That's awesome. I picked 27-17 Jets. I think they bounce back both defensively and offensively. Honestly, I think if I had to pick one of the two, I'm going to go Brees. I think he's going to get, or the line is going to get a better push than they did a week ago. This Titans team, they are a good defense. I don't want to completely discredit them because they are a good unit, but it's still not the same as the 49ers. So I think the Jets plan, especially too with the little they had the ball in week 1, I think they're going to really try to focus on the time of possession game, which usually leads to more carries. So I would say Brees, but I picked Garrett to have 100 yards and a touchdown too. So it's not like he's going to do nothing, but I'm curious your thoughts on that, Connor.
Yeah, I think it's kind of going to be a mix of both for sure. I mean, those are two of the most premier weapons on the team. Of course, they're going to go after one of them. In terms of who's going to be counted on more, I'd have to say it's going to be Brees because what we saw, they didn't really utilize Allen much in the game plan compared to Garrett Wilson. He has more competition there, such as Allen Lazard, Xavier Gibson, Tyler Conklin. So right now, I'd probably have to go with Brees just because there's a lot more competition there in the wide receiver room. But keeping it going, we got Allen. They are actually sitting Taylor and Watts to play Clemens and Thomas. Mind-boggling. Matt, I don't understand all this Solomon Thomas hate.
I get it a little bit. I'm not the biggest Solomon. I'm not the biggest Solomon Thomas
6.5 sacks last year. I mean, come on. How can you? Here's the thing. The thing I like about Solomon Thomas is he was the 3rd overall pick. He's literally one of the greatest guys ever. And 3rd overall pick. Obviously, he's never lived up to the expectations. But if you told me he was a 4th round pick, I think he was a very talented player. I think he gets a lot of hate because he was selected 3rd overall. Quite frankly.
But yeah, that was the quietest 6.5 sack season.
Yeah,
I think. But look, he's better in. He's better. I will say this: he's better rushing the passer than he is on the ground in the run game. So that is, I think, part of where the frustration comes in for me. Clemens is the one that I really don't get. His strength is supposed to be as a run defender, and it felt like they really just ran right at him last week. So he's someone he's going to get the same amount of playing time this week. So he needs to bounce back because if he performs the way that he did in week 1 again in week 2, the Jets might have some issues stopping the run.
Absolutely. Let's see. Jugalal, Jets fan. Rodgers has never started the 0-2. We lose today, and he's marching into Woody's office making a demand. Matt, could you see that? And what does that demand look like? Is it Davante Adams?
I would love to see Davante Adams as a Jet. I think it's still too early for that. If the Raiders are like 0-6 or 1-5, into October before the trade deadline, that's when I think something could happen. September trades, I feel like is too early, but I guess you never know. Things really don't feel like they're going well in Vegas. I thought Gardner Minshew didn't really look all that good in week 1. And they're a team that I don't see winning very many games, honestly. So if they want to just recoup some value and get some draft picks to maybe move up for a quarterback, I would think Davante would be there for the taking.
MRR. Hi, I'm from New Mexico. Do you think Malachi will get a touchdown or a? I don't know. I don't know what the or a is, but do you think Malachi Corley will get a touchdown today?
Unfortunately, no. I don't think he's going to be used a ton. I think what I say before, somewhere between 3 and 5 touches would be my goal. Do I think he gets that? That's another question, man, because he only had 1 snap a week ago. Now that should go up, as we said, but by how much? That's my question is how much does his snap count go up? Same with Mike Williams. I would lean towards no, but I hope I'm wrong because I like Malachi Corley.
Let's see. White Mike. They get throttled today. Salah better not be there tomorrow.
See, it's already starting, Connor.
Yeah.
And I get it. I understand the frustration with Robert Salah. I really do. I just would be very, very surprised if Woody Johnson made that call after week 2. I think they want to give him a little bit more time with Aaron Rodgers. But again, if you start 0-2, the people are going to really panic. And I don't think Woody Johnson is going to take too kindly to all the negative attention the Jets would be getting if they start 0-2.
Absolutely. And if I'll say this, if the Jets were to make a coaching change, I'd expect it to be earlier on in the season. Because, for example, like I said, if they're 4 games under 500 going into week 15, it's pointless for them to make a coaching change. It's very unlikely, but if they were to do it, maybe it's something, God forbid, we're going into the week 6 matchup and the Jets are 1-4 going into that game. That maybe I can manifest, but 0-2 will definitely not get it done. They gave Salah a mulligan year this season.
Yeah, it really feels that way, right? Like, to me, I think they want to see their plan through. And their plan was to bring in Aaron Rodgers. And look, it didn't go well in week 1. I'll be the first person to tell you it did not go well in week 1. I thought Robert Saleh looked like he got out-coached. He needs to bounce back in a big way. Again, I understand, like, we're going to get it in the comments. I understand those who are, like, already out on Saleh, and
Yes.
There's going to be no convincing. For me, I'm not ready to definitively say he is or is not the guy. I think I would give him this season to see. But again, like, if they're 9-8 and are losing in wild card weekend, then I'm pulling the plug on this. Like, to me, I can't justify bringing that regime back again.
Well, if the Jets don't, here's the thing: if the Jets don't make the playoffs, it's impossible for them to come back. If the Jets make the playoffs and if they lose in the first round, how do they lose is the biggest question. Do they lose to a 9-8 Colts team that barely sneaks in and they get demolished, or do they have to face off? Let's say the Chiefs don't get a bye week, and that rare scenario happens, and the Jets have to play the Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium. It's like, and then they lose. So a lot of different scenarios go into it, but the main thing for the Jets is making the playoffs. If that does not happen, I don't think there's any way Saleh and Douglas can be brought back. But let's see. We got Michael. X factor for this game, I'm going with Garrett Wilson. Matt, we kind of described the positional X factors there. One player, who is that?
Yeah, I mean, from the wide receiver room, it has to be Garrett. I think hearing Aaron Rodgers speak this week, it really felt like he wants to get Garrett Wilson more involved. And I was surprised after the start that he had. There was that one drive, the scoring drive, their third possession of the game. They went to him 3 or 4 times on third down. They were getting conversion after conversion. And then in the second half, he was really, really quiet. So, like I said, I think he's going to get 8 or 9 catches and go over 100 yards, which probably means 15 targets, close to that.
Yeah. We did see, what was it? You said it was 11, right?
He had 11 last week, but I think it was only 6 catches.
Six catches for 60 yards and 6 yards for 60. 6 catches for 60 yards on 11 targets. I believe that's what it is.
I'm pretty sure that's.
But here's the thing: the Titans have a lot weaker of a secondary than the 49ers do. Pro Football Focus ranked the 49ers the second best secondary in the league, just behind the Jets. They ranked the Titans 15. So I think this wide receiver, they're going to have a lot more opportunities facing off against the Titans rather than the 49ers.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, again, I want to show my respect to the Titans defense because I do think they are a good unit, but it is a really big difference going from a team that was in the Super Bowl last year and probably, like, let's be honest, probably should have won that game, to a team in Tennessee who's going to be in a transition year, I think. The new coach, they're implementing a system. They have a young offensive line. I think it's going to take some time. But, for me, this is one you have to have. There's really I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't care what the weather is there. I don't care whatever happens. Just find a way to get a win.
Absolutely. We got a few fun comments before we get back to some questions. Jugalo, this dude with the childlike voice should be our GM or head coach. Jugalo, I do appreciate it. And then we got one more. Where is it? Here we go. The reluctant Earthling, Matt for OC and Connor for GM. Too bad it's not a democracy. Matt, I think we'd make a pretty solid regime there.
I would sign up for it. I am more than good with Connor being the GM. Offensively, look, I think I could design some interesting plays. I used to do it in Madden back in the day. You could I don't know if they still have it. I don't really play. I haven't played Madden since COVID, and before that it was like 2008. But anyway, moral of the story is I think I could design some unique offenses. I did it back in the day. I could do it again.
I got a fun one. Green Bean GM, myself assistant GM, Robbie Sabo, head coach, yourself offensive coordinator, and Joe Blewett defensive coordinator.
That's
I
a
think
Super
that's a
Bowl.
Super Bowl winning team.
Easy Super Bowl winning team. Connor maybe head scout too, like just
Yeah.
getting him involved. I love it.
Really, we appreciate the support. The reluctant Earthling. Let's see. If you're going to the Jets Pat game, would be nice to meet you. Matt, are you going to the home opener?
No, I will not be at the home opener. I'm going to the Denver game the week after. That's our Talking Jets outing. So we got 85 tickets. We have 85
Whew.
people hanging out with us. We're doing a tailgate beforehand with Tailgate Joe. We'll be in Lot E. And then after the game, we get to go on the field with our group, get a group picture on the field. It's going to be such a fun day. I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely, Brandon. I will be at the home opener, so if you see me, just say hi. I'd love to see you there. Let's see. Allen, Wilson versus Snead could be fun. Matt, I did speak with a Titans insider of A to Z Sports Network, Easton Freeze, and he did say he thinks that Snead Wilson matchup. He thinks Snead will be shadowing Wilson the majority of the game. What does that matchup look like?
Yes, Snead's a very good corner. I mean, he was brought in from Kansas City, obviously, but I think it is going to be an interesting matchup to watch. I agree that they will shadow him because, I mean, let's be honest, there's a drop-off at wide receiver right now for the Jets after Garrett Wilson. Mike Williams isn't himself yet, coming off the injury. Alan Lazard had a really good week one matchup, real week one game, but consistency very inconsistent. And then after that, you got two young guys in Xavier Gipson and Malachi Corley. So I think it just makes sense for Snead to shadow Wilson, but I don't think that's going to stop the Jets from going his way still.
Absolutely. Sorry, we missed a super chat. It came in roughly 4 minutes ago. Sorry about that. Xander Davis, I really like Salah, but stomp the Titans today. Xander, we appreciate the super chat.
Yeah, I'm with him on that. They need a decisive win to me. If they sneak out and win this one 17-14, I think I'd be happy, but not satisfied with it. I think if they go out, win by double digits, I think, everyone kind of collectively breathes a sigh of relief today.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a game the Jets should win by it kind of reminds me of it's a little different, but the Commanders game last year when they were tanking,
Okay.
where it's like they won by 3 points, but no one was really happy. This is a game where the Jets are expected to win, but expected to win big, at least by the fan base. Yes, it's only a 3.5 spread, but a lot of it has to go into home field advantage there. I think this is a big game at a Gang Green today.
Yeah, I think so too. They need it. Again, I think the offense scores in the high 20s today in points. I think they're going to get the ball. Here's a prediction for you. They get the ball in the first possession, and they actually have a good opening script and go down the field and go up 7-0.
My thing with offensive possession, I think one of the X factors for the Titans side of the football is not turning the ball over, because this offense, we know they're a promising unit. They showed that during week one. The thing with the Titans, they can't give the Jets more opportunities than the Jets are already going to generate. If that happens, that's when the game's already over.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you there. They got to get it back on track and look like the version of themselves that we saw in training camp, in the preseason, not what they saw in week one.
Absolutely. Let's see. GVH, we got run on like crazy last week. So what do we think is on? What do we do? What do we do on the D line? Sit LT and roll out Clemens and Holmes. Got to try new things, I think.
Yeah, I just don't know who's going to come in. I guess Holmes would be the one who comes in and plays a little bit more than he did a week ago, but Clemens played a lot. He played close to 50% of the snaps. So Jermaine's going to get a ton of snaps on the other side. We know that. He's got to be better this week, but I think it's going to be a split between Clemens and Will McDonald, depending on the circumstances. But honestly, these guys just have to play better. I know that's really such an easy thing to say. I don't really have oh, well, this guy has to play or they should run this scheme. They just got to tackle better and play to the back of their, ever hear this saying, play to the back of their baseball cards?
Yes,
that,
of course.
Essentially play up to expectation. That's the goal.
Absolutely. Let's see. We got John. Jeffrey Simmons is a top defensive tackle. Getting the run game going could be an issue. Didn't see much of Braylon Allen. Saw absolutely nothing out of Isaiah Davis. Could you see the Jets maybe using those guys as a decoy to use Breece Hall's explosiveness?
I would really hope so. I think they need to change the pace a little bit, and I don't want to run Breece Hall into the ground so early in the season. Now, Hall is awesome. So I don't want this to come across as like I want it to be a running back by committee or a 50-50 split. Like Braylon Allen literally had one rush. Like that is just way too skewed towards Brees. And if Brees runs the ball 15 times and Braylon Allen has like 6 carries and maybe Isaiah Davis has another 3, I think that is a better sample of how they should spread it around.
Absolutely. Nate, who is the special teams coach? That is none other than Brant Boyer. Excuse me there. Matt, what do you expect out of this Jets special teams unit as a whole? They were great last year. What about today?
Yeah, I think that's going to continue, man. Like Thomas Morstead might be able to kick till he's 100 years old. He's just an incredible punter. We saw that last week. Zerloin, for me, I thought he was shaky in that final preseason game, which is a little concerning, but has shown to be a very, very good kicker over the years, has settled down that position as well. And they didn't really have much in the return game last week. So maybe Xavier Gibson gets more involved.
Yeah. I agree. Here's the thing. Malachi Corley, fans are disappointed already after week 1. I've told Jet fans the whole summer, I don't think Malachi Corley is going to be a bad player, but I think fans were expecting him, when the Jets drafted him to come in and be a focal point of the offense immediately. I think he's more of a developmental project. Matt, what are your thoughts on Corley? I know you're expecting 3 to 5 touches out of him.
Yeah, I think in the second half of the season is when we really see him hit his stride. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, it's just one, they never bring on young players, quickly. They always take their time there. And number 2, there's just a lot of guys in front of him in this wide receiver room. Lazard, Gibson, Mike Williams. So I think it's going to be tough for him to get his opportunity unless maybe there's an injury here at some point.
Absolutely. Alan says Michael Clemens is a joke.
Hard to disagree with Alan on this one.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think his ceiling is his rookie season when he came in. It was a rotational piece of this Jets defense. He wasn't a liability. Definitely wasn't a liability. He played a key role. I think that's his ceiling. What should fans expect out of him in this game and just the season as a whole?
I really hope that he goes back to being how he played as a rookie, because as you said, he was a functional rotational guy at that point. Against the run, if the Jets had that version of him to play on first and second down, maybe 35% of snaps, that's one thing. How he played last year, how he looked in training camp, and how he looked in week 1, a little concerning for me. Like he gives you virtually nothing as a pass rusher. But his calling card, again, as we mentioned in his rookie season, was his run game ability. But unfortunately, he came into the league at 25. So it's year 3 for him, and he's already 27 years old. So I don't know how much better he's really going to get from at this point in his career. He already kind of feels like he is what he is. So I'm hoping he bounces back, because again, the Jets play him a lot. They really like him, but I don't know. I don't see it here.
Absolutely. That's why I said I think his ceiling is his rookie season. That's when he's his youngest. You said what is he? Is he 28 now? 26? Something along those lines, correct?
Clemens?
Yes.
He's 27 this year.
27, okay.
Yeah, 25 as a rookie, and he's a year 3, so 27.
So the odds were stacked against him already, because you're coming into the league as 25 as a rookie. You look, Braylon Allen, he's 20 years old, and he's a rookie. So Michael Clemens came into the league 5 years older than Braylon Allen did. It's crazy to think of it that way.
Yeah, and like even now, still I watched some college football yesterday, and some of these quarterbacks, it just feels like they've been in college forever. And COVID played a part of it. They had the extra year of eligibility, but some of these guys are staying 6-7 years in college, where you have someone like Braylon Allen comes out as a junior, and he's a younger junior, and he's 20. Like, I don't know. I usually like to take chances on the younger guys, because if it pans out, you're paying them at like 25 to 28, which is usually a player's prime. If the guy's 25 years old, already coming out, he's a day 3 pick, and it's going to take some time to develop. Like, do you want the Jets to pay a 29-year-old Michael Clemens next year? I don't really see it. Yeah, I don't see a world where that ends up working out for them. So I usually prefer to go with younger players on my dart throw picks.
Absolutely. Speaking of, just the Braylon Allen Jets running back room, Harlan says, hope Brees hangs on to the ball, also doesn't ricochet off the receiver's hands. We did see that with that interception, Matt. Brees, what does Brees's role look like?
Yeah, I was surprised to see the effort that he put out there on Monday. It wasn't good, which is rare. He's put so much good tape on film. Like, I'm not jumping off the bandwagon off of one game. He had a drop. He had that fumble. He really didn't, unless I'm forgetting. I don't think he's fumbled since the first game of his rookie season against Baltimore.
I think you're right.
So I think he'll be fine today. I'm not really overly concerned. But again, we'll see. It's not the same defense going up against going up against Tennessee rather, versus like going up against San Francisco a week ago. So I think he'll be fine.
Let's see a few more questions actually here before we wrap. Marcelo, this is a game that we need to win convincingly. Levis had made big mistakes last week, and we need to capitalize. The Titans can run the rock, so getting takeaways in the air can be key to an early lead.
I agree with this 1,000%. I'll call my shot. The Jets get 2 turnovers from Will Levis today, either 1 interception and 1 fumble recovery or 2 picks. I think they'll get him to turn the ball over. That's how they steal a possession or 2 and put up some more points in this game.
I did list that as one of my X factors. I did say, forcing Levis to turn the ball over, just pressuring him. He was the second most pressured quarterback during week 1, and his struggles were evident. 19 of 32, 127 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. So just pressure. I think that's really the key to the Jets season as a whole, especially they're playing right now without Hassan Reddick, the pure pass rusher. This team really needs over 50 sacks the past 4 seasons. So that's obviously a huge loss. Jets need players to step up in that area. Nate says, I want to see more out of the dynamic returners. Jets had plenty of opportunities.
Yeah, they did have opportunities a week ago. I know in the Bills game in week 1, there was a return for a touchdown, I believe, an Arizona Cardinal.
Yes, DJ Dallas. And then my guy Brandon Codrington, 55-yarder.
Yeah, he had a nice return as well. But besides those 2, I feel like it's been quiet the first couple weeks so far. And there's only been 1 game in week 2, so like I'm not saying this is how it's going to be forever. But it feels like the dynamic return's been a little bit quiet. I'm curious to see if, as the year goes on, maybe these teams try to get a little bit more creative.
Yeah, absolutely. And the preseason, I know everyone's going to say, there was nothing in the preseason, blah, blah, blah. I don't think teams wanted to show their hand really during the preseason. So that's why there wasn't. We still saw Brandon Codrington rip off like 2 50-yarders for the Jets while not even really using the proper scheme there. So I think it's going to get better as the season progresses. I think the main thing, if they really want to make it stand out, is first you have to really take it out of the landing zone, and then you penalize the kickers if they kick it out of the back of the end zone.
Yeah, well, they moved it to the 30-yard line if you kick it out of the back of the end zone?
The 30-yard line, and then if you don't take it out of the landing zone, it's the 20. Okay,
and if you kick it short, it's like kicking it out of bounds, so they get it at
the 45.
Okay, yeah, so I'm not out on this dynamic return yet. I know some people are like really disappointed about it. Al Michaels, you would think like this is the worst thing in the world by how he talked about it in the Thursday night game. He is not a fan about it. I'm not at that level yet. I'm not ready to bail on it. I want to give it the full season sample before I'm saying whether I like it or not.
Yeah, I completely agree. We need to see at least 1 full season. I wouldn't be surprised though if they revert back. However, not a lot of it has to do with some things has to do with the excitement, forcing players to take it out. But I think a lot of it has to do with injury prevention.
Yeah, it definitely has to. I mean, for me, I know I'm a lot older than you, but I'm always going to miss the 2000s football. You missed it, man. Those kickoffs with like Leon Washington and Brad Smith returning kicks for the Jets. Justin Miller, that was prime time NFL. They would get like 2 or 3 returns for a touchdown each year. Defenses could still hit people. That maybe it's just me being nostalgic, but that to me was the goated era. Unfortunately, I don't think it's ever going to get back to that, at least on the kickoff side of things. I think, as you mentioned, they want to keep these guys healthy, so they don't want to completely go back. And I think this was their way of bridging the gap, so where it's not a completely nothing play, because how many of it in the old way was it just a touchback like almost every single time?
Yeah.
At least this way you're getting more returns and it's relatively safer.
Absolutely. And I will say this, you mentioned the kick returners there. It's really fun. I personally think from what I've seen on the Jets, they've had it. I think it's either I'd honestly say if you're counting preseason football, Brandon Codrington is probably the most electrifying kick returner I've watched just from
Okay.
since I've watched football for the Jets. If you're counting just the Jets, I'd probably say Codrington, then maybe Gibson. I thought Isaiah. Here's the thing: if you count preseason, it's different. If you're counting regular season, it's probably Gibson. But I'd have to go Codrington if you're counting preseason, just because you saw it in the regular season game with the Week 1 matchup with the Bills. You can't take your eyes off him when he's on the field.
What was the first year you remember for Jets football?
First year, I remember I think I've seen a few Josh McCown games, but the first vivid memory I have is I was getting out of the shower upstairs and the Sam Darnold preseason game against the Lions, I believe. But I don't know if it was a preseason or regular season.
No, that was
game.
his first start. Okay.
First start, and he threw a pick six the first throw. That's the first I vividly remember, but I've seen some Josh McCown games.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, you're just going back over that span, that's the last 5-6 years. You're probably right with Codrington or Gibson over that time, I would say.
And it also helps that I vividly remember those guys because I've been like in my prime as a fan these past 3 to 4 years. So, other than these past few seasons, they haven't really had any electrifying players, if you will. But a couple more things before we wrap. Jolt, Rex, Stiggers, or Eccles? Matt, what do you got?
I think it's going to be Eccles today. The staff really likes him. I just feel like he's higher on the pecking order right now. I like Quantez. I'd like to see him get more of an opportunity as the year goes on because I think we talked a lot about DJ Reed earlier in this episode, but I think he's definitely in the running to be a DJ Reed replacement if they do move on from him. But I think it's going to be Eccles today.
Absolutely. Eccles has the experience. I think he has the potential to possibly be a starter in the league if he's on a less talented team than the Jets. We saw that 2 interception game, I believe it was, against the Dolphins 2 or 3 years ago now, whatever it was. I mean, he could, when he gets an opportunity, he's a solid player.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And we've seen for Eccles in particular, like even though he hasn't started since his rookie year, he's still come up with a couple big interceptions too over the last few years. So who knows? Maybe I'll call my shot even more. Brandon Eccles interception today. How about that?
Woo! Brandon Eccles. We saw it the last time he stepped into an increased role against with the Dolphins. One final question here before we wrap. If you submit your final super chats, membership gifting, whatever you'd like. But we got this one from Scott. Are McDonald and Johnson too small to bet proper edge setters against the run, or are they best at career pass rush? Or are they at best career pass rush specialists?
I don't view Jermaine Johnson that way at all. I think he is definitely an every down player. I think he's now at this point without JFM, he's their best run defending edge. I think Johnson is a significantly better all around edge rusher where Will McDonald at his ceiling, not right now, but at his ceiling, I think could be a better pure pass rusher. But at his size, he's never going to be a good rundown player. So, I think Johnson isn't too small at all. He's actually on the bigger side for an edge. Will McDonald, correct. He's 235, 240 pounds. He ain't setting the run at all.
Absolutely. I completely agree. This is the final shot to get your super chats and memberships in. Matt, we are just about 45 minutes away from kickoff. Second pregame show of the year in the books. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I love this. I think it's been a blast just chopping it up for a little over an hour each time before these games. Again, I'm at the Beach Gallery here in New Jersey. I got the sign up behind me.
There we go.
They gave me this awesome Jets flag. So really cool story.
Oh, wow.
Before hopping out of here, the owner is a really big Jet fan. And by the way, owner has a connection to get a box. So if anyone's interested in getting like not like a press box, but like a suite to a single games, reach out to the owner. You can find his email on their website. But anyway, his family had like 32 tickets to games growing up, and they were tailgating. And he's like, this flag one year, which I'm guessing by the looks of it looks mid-90s, let's say, just blew like in the parking lot, like blew right up to where they were hanging out. And they're like, oh, cool, look at this flag. And they've just kept it ever since, like the last 30 years. So he has it at the restaurant. He tacked it up behind me today for this video. I think it's perfect. So shout out the Beach Gallery. Shout out Derek, the owner, big Jet fan, watches all our stuff. So it should be a fun day today.
At the buzzer, green and white militia. JJ is going off today. Final thing on JJ's performance today, Matt.
Yeah, I don't think it's too crazy to say that week 1 might have been Jermaine Johnson's worst game as a Jet. And
if you maybe the rookie year was not great.
Yeah, that's true. He was very quiet. So over the last 2 years, since he's been a regular starter, let's say that was probably his worst game. But as I mentioned with Breece Hall about having too many examples of him being good, you could say the same thing about Jermaine Johnson. Like, I'm not bailing on him after just one bad performance. And honestly, he was targeted going up against Trent Williams pretty much the entire game. So I'm not going to kill him on that one. I love, by the way, the green on the white pants is such a
look at that.
great
There we go.
Oh my God. I'm very excited for this one, but I agree with green and white, my guy here. I think JJ is going to have a good game today.
Absolutely. I completely agree. This is the game where he steps up. He was a Pro Bowler last year. Yes, I understand he was an alternate. However, he still has the talent. This is the year where he steps up and makes a huge difference. Like we said, another pregame in the books. Matt, we got into it, but any final words now?
Jets get back in the win column. How about that? Jets win 27-17 next week. Well, you're going to the game next week, so I'll be solo on the pregame show next week, but vibes will be much better. And how about that? You Jets win today, and then you watch a win at the home opener next week.
Absolutely. I hope to see a win at the home opener, and I will also be at the London game as well. So I hope to see a win overseas there in London. Another pregame show in the books. We are just 43 minutes away from kickoff. Jets versus Titans. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, JTS, Jets, Jets, Jets.